Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at a 2024 presidential matchup that would be a rematch of the 2016 presidential election. So, for the past week or so, there's been a lot of speculation that Hillary Clinton is going to run in 2024. Now, I personally think that that's kind of ridiculous because I really doubt that Clinton would want to run again or would have a reason to run again. That's, I think, partially because she doesn't have a big enough base to launch a campaign. She still has a group of people that really like her, but that base is not as big as it was in 2016, and even for people that do like her, they might not necessarily be willing to give it another shot because they think that she'd lose, because Hillary Clinton's not a very popular candidate, her approval rating's not great, and I get that Trump's not a very popular candidate either, but Trump beat her in 2016, and 2016 should have been a year that, 2016 should have been a pretty Democratic year, but it ended up being, Democrats narrowly won the popular vote and Trump got elected, so it was not a year that was very productive or successful for the Democratic Party. And so, as a result of that, I'm inclined to say that she's not going to run again. I could be proven wrong. I mean, crazier things have happened in politics, but I doubt that she's going to run again. And if she does, I will be surprised. But that being said, this is a cool matchup we're going to take a look at. So let's hop right into it. So Clinton would win Hawaii, California, Washington, Illinois, the 1st District of Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, I guess, Maryland, D.C., and I think that should be it. Trump, he'd probably win, the states that we normally associate with being safe for Republicans. He'd also win Kansas, Missouri, Indiana. He'd probably win Iowa by a safe margin as well. I just don't think that Clinton has it in her to, improve anywhere, because Biden actually did pretty well in urban and suburban Iowa. It's just he did so poorly in the rural areas that it didn't really matter. Clinton actually did better in rural Iowa than Biden, but it's mostly because a bunch of third-party candidates took away votes from Donald Trump there, and then in 2020, all those people voted for Gary Johnson, voted for Trump. And so that's basically why Trump did a little better in rural Iowa in 2020 than 2016. It's not because Clinton was a better candidate for rural Iowa than Biden was. So I don't really think she'd do that well in Iowa. She'd probably do pretty poorly in Iowa. Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, it's close to being safe, but I'm not going to put it as safe. But so that's it. Clinton with 135 electoral votes starting out in her safe column. Trump 119. Now, there are some states that I think she'd win, probably by margins between 5 and 15. That's Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico for the West Coast. These states I don't think would be that competitive. Trump might make a play for New Mexico, but Clinton actually did better with Hispanics than Joe Biden, as I'm sure you know. And I think that would continue. She wouldn't have the advantage of being an incumbent, and for background, Hispanics do usually trend towards incumbents. They've been doing so for decades. And I do think Biden would do a little better with Hispanics in 2024 than 2020 in most regions, although that's iffy. Clinton in 2016, though, she did better with Hispanics than Joe Biden nationwide by about 5%. And in a lot of states like Florida, she did double digits better. In New Mexico, she did better. And I think in Texas, she also did a lot better. So it's close because she'd do worse in a lot of places, too, because Biden did really well in the suburbs and Clinton would not do as well in the suburbs. But, yeah, I don't really see, Trump flipping New Mexico just because it's trending red a little bit, and Clinton would probably do fine with Hispanics anyways. So give me those states to be likely. Oregon, I don't really think Oregon is that competitive. It's probably she probably wins it by 13 or 14. It's just that it would fall below 15, which is technically likely. So yeah, I think Virginia would be likely as well. I get that Hillary Clinton did not do that well in Virginia in 2016. And I think that that's worth talking about because, she only won it by 5%, and that was despite Tim Kaine being her running mate. But at the same time, Virginia's gotten bluer, and I really think that, Trump made a bit of a play for Virginia in 2016. I don't really think he'd want to do that again in 2020 or 2024 when he could be spending his time in, if Trump is looking at states that Clinton won in 2016 that he wants to flip. The closest were Virginia, Minnesota, and New Hampshire, right? Virginia is definitely the least competitive of those three. Minnesota, I think he'd target the most, then New Hampshire, then probably Virginia. And even, and also Nevada. I forgot about Nevada. He'd definitely target Nevada the most out of those four. New Mexico even would I think be in some cases more viable for Trump than Virginia. I just don't really think that the numbers are there for Republicans in Virginia. And yes, I know Glenn Youngkin won the gubernatorial election in November. I don't live under a rock, but those were very special circumstances for a Republican that are not likely to be replicated at the presidential level. And then I guess we'll just fill out the rest of the Northeast. Oh, also New York should be safe. I totally forgot about New York. Delaware, Connecticut, Maine at large. These are all, likely Democratic states. Delaware and Connecticut are, generally associated with Democrats, but they'd probably narrow up by a significant amount, because of the fact that Trump did well here in 2016. And I think both these states are trending towards Republicans anyways, so I'm not entirely sure if Clinton would even win them by, 10. If I had to guess, she probably wins Delaware by, 9, Connecticut by 8 or something. It's close. Clinton would do fine with Hispanics there in these regions, but I think that's the only area where she does better. The same with Biden, because she does a lot worse in the suburbs. She does a lot worse with black voters, and she probably does a lot worse with rural voters as well. Because there are rural voters in Kansas are very different from rural voters in Connecticut or Massachusetts. Rural voters in the Northeast are generally pretty swingy. The average rural voter in the Northeast is probably a Republican, but it's only 55 to 45 as opposed to 80 to 20. So Biden did quite well in rural Connecticut and rural Delaware. He actually flipped a county in Delaware. So I'm just going to say that for now, these states are likely for Hillary Clinton. Trump's got a few likely states as well. I think he wins Alaska by a likely margin, not too much to say there. Oh, also Clinton, actually, sorry, never mind. He probably wins Ohio by a likely margin. Again, there's not a lot to say there. It's closer to safe than it is to lean. He probably wins it by 9 or 10, so similar margins to Connecticut and Rhode Island. Yeah, I don't really know if I can elaborate too much. I think this is a pretty normal call here. I mean, Clinton actually did better in a lot of working class areas than Biden. And I don't exactly know why that is. I think it's mostly because of third-party voting and because there were some working-class voters. In Ohio, for example, Trump flipped 2 counties. One of them was Mahoning. Actually, he might have flipped Trumbull as well. But Mahoning County is one I'll talk about, I guess, which I think is one of the most working-class counties in America. It's home to Youngstown. And it is, it was a safe Democratic county for a very long time before Trump narrowed it to, a 2-point margin victory for Clinton in 2016, and then he flipped it in 2020. So those areas I'm not really sure how they trend. It's it's difficult to understand because you'd think Biden would do better with working class voters than Clinton, and for the most part he did. But in Ohio that did not happen. So I'll just have this likely Republican. I'm not sure some of the areas would trend, but it doesn't really matter because it's Trump would still win it no matter what. South Carolina as well. I think that would be likely for Donald Trump. And yeah, I think that's it for our likely Trump states. For Hillary Clinton, her lean states, I think she would win Nebraska's second district by a lean margin. I get that she lost it in 2016, but it's gotten so much bluer since then. It's become a Democratic leaning district as a whole. And yes, I understand that Don Bacon won re-election here in 2020, but that wasn't a congressional race against a socialist candidate. Kara Eastman was literally a Democratic socialist, which does not usually play well in suburban Nebraska. And yeah, I just think Clinton 2024 it'll be even more Democratic, and I just think she'd win it by probably 2 or 3. It's not super safe. Obviously, it's closer to toss up than likely, but I'd still give it to her. That's 212 for Hillary Clinton. For Donald Trump, for her lean states, yeah, I forgot about that. I think Clinton wins New Hampshire by a lean margin. So this is one of the few states where she does better in 2024 than 2016, I guess. And I say that because in New Hampshire there were a lot of Democrats that just voted for a libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson or even Jill Stein, because they did not want to vote for Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton was not a popular candidate in 2016. She's still not very popular. She might have gotten a bit more popular since 2016, but I think once she's in the spotlight, I'm not sure if that's going to help her. But the fact of the matter is, New Hampshire is there are a lot of small towns that voted for Trump in 2016, then swung 20 points towards Biden, because Biden did really well in New Hampshire. He went up by 7. So I just don't see there being a big enough swing to flip the state in 2024, especially if Trump's on the ballot, because I think Trump was not really a good candidate for New Hampshire. Republicans in New Hampshire are generally moderate or position themselves as more socially liberal, economically conservative, whereas Trump is super conservative, super populist, super right wing. So that makes me inclined to think that New Hampshire would not flip in 2024, even if Hillary Clinton ran. For Trump's lean states, I think he's got a lot, so I think this might clear the map here. So Nevada and Arizona are the first two I'll knock out here. Look, I get that Hillary Clinton is probably going to do better with Hispanics than Joe Biden, but she probably makes Washoe within a point. I don't know whether she wins it or loses it. It's really close. I could see it going either way, but she's going to do really poorly in rural Nevada. She's not going to do better than Biden in the suburbs of Las Vegas, and she's probably going to do worse than in Washoe County and Carson City, and that's enough to flip the state on its own. Trump, again, he did quite well with Hispanics in 2016, and in 2020 he did quite well with Hispanics. 2016 he did not do that well with Hispanics, and that's what Clinton won Nevada in 2016. Nevada, it did not trend really anywhere in 2020, and that makes me think that if the things went right for Republicans in 2024, they could flip it. And I think this is kind of a best case scenario for Republicans, where you've got Hillary Clinton, who's a pretty bad Democratic candidate, running against Donald Trump, who has still a massive base. Which I think the same thing applies to Arizona too. By the way, Clinton does not do as well as Biden in the suburbs in either of these states, and that's just the difference there. Because I don't really know if Hispanics would trend towards Democrats or Republicans, because Trump would maybe have the incumbency here because he'd be the former president, but Clinton would be the incumbent party. So it's really tough to tell. It's really hard to analyze, but I just think, based on partisanship and national environment trends, I think that these states would vote for Trump by about 2%. I'll put Nevada as toe just to be cautious, but I don't really think that these states would vote for Hillary Clinton. Trump also probably wins Texas by a lean margin. It's similar to 2020. He probably wins it by 5, so only about a point or half a point narrower than 2020, which is, by the way, a loss for Democrats because Texas should be getting at least 3% bluer every cycle. In 2020, Biden had the opportunity to make Texas really close, and he didn't really seize it. He lost it by 6, which was still a good performance for a Democrat, but it was not that good, if that makes sense. And so Clinton would do the same thing. She'd narrow it up a little bit because she'd probably continue some trends in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in the Austin suburbs, and the San Antonio suburbs, and she'd also do better than Biden in all likelihood in the Rio Grande Valley. But it's just not going to be enough. The improvements that she'd make in the suburbs would be canceled out, or they'd be very narrow anyways. So Texas, I would say lean Republican in 2024 if it's Trump versus Clinton. Trump also wins Florida and North Carolina by lean margins. These states were, Florida, Clinton did well in Florida in 2016, but it's just 2016 was just different than 2024. I get that 2024, I think America as a whole is shifting left, not as in it's trending Democratic, it's just that the Overton window is shifting to the left. So, for example, issues like gay marriage and abortion are now more left-wing than they were 15 years ago. And I get that 2016, America was a more conservative country than it is now. But at the same time, Florida is not a state that Hillary Clinton would be favored in. It's just not. I get that she did really well there in 2016. I get that she almost won it in a year that she should have lost it by 5. Because, she almost won Florida, and she still lost the Rust Belt by similar amounts. So, yes, she did well in Florida. But I don't see her doing as well with Hispanics in Miami-Dade County as she did in 2016. She probably wins Miami-Dade by half as much. She won it by 29 in 2016. She probably wins it by 15, at best, in 2024. And that's, the difference right there. She can do better. She might even flip Pinellas County or something. She probably wins Duval and Seminole. She might flip Pinellas, which, she'd do better in a lot of counties in 2024 than 2016. But Trump did so well with Hispanics in 2020 that she'd, need a massive reversion to happen, and that just would not, it just wouldn't come to fruition. Because if, Democrats need a Hispanic reversion to win Florida, and that's not going to come unless they fundamentally change something about their candidates and about their party in the state. And Hillary Clinton would not do that. She'd do a little better, but that's not saying much because Biden did so poorly with them, with Hispanics already. So Florida, lean Republican. Same with North Carolina. It's obviously a different story, but I think they'd be pretty similar in margins. Biden was, I think, Biden had the cards to win North Carolina. I had North Carolina as tilt Republican on election day, so I got the state right. But I, for the longest of time, was a very ardent believer in blue North Carolina. I thought Biden was going to win it up until like late October when I finally changed it to Trump. And I guess I'm glad I did because I got it right. But, Biden should have won North Carolina. He should have done better in the suburbs. He should have done better with black voters. He should have done better with some rural voters. And he, just didn't really, do anything. He didn't really do any of those things. He had Roy Cooper on the ballot, and he could have just rode Roy Cooper's coattails, to be honest, because Cooper won re-election by 5% as a Democrat in the state. He could have just rode Cooper's coattails, but for whatever reason, there were a lot of people that voted for Roy Cooper that voted for Donald Trump and Tom Tillis, and that's why North Carolina has a Democratic governor but voted Republican for everything else. And so, if if Biden could win North Carolina in 2020, I don't think Clinton would win in 2024. So that's just where my head's at for that right now. So yeah. Also, I forgot to mention Trump would win the second district by 11 margin. I totally forgot that. Also, Wisconsin's probably lean. Pennsylvania's probably lean. So Pennsylvania's the tipping point state once again. Pennsylvania's always the tipping point state. So yeah, Wisconsin, she probably loses it by 4, maybe 5 if it gets bad. It's just that Wisconsin's getting so much more Republican. Clinton lost Wisconsin despite doing decently well in rural areas of the state. I will actually pull it up right now because I think it's important to talk about this. If we take a look at the 2016 election in Wisconsin, Clinton lost the state by 0.7%, and again, as you might expect, she did very well in Dane, she did very well in Milwaukee. She actually did better than Biden in both Kenosha and Racine, but everywhere else she underperformed Obama. If we look at the shift from 2016 or from 2012, everything trended red. She did a little better in Milwaukee, she did a little better in Waukesha, she did a little better in Ozaukee, which are the WOW counties, but everywhere else, and actually she did a little better in Dane, which is Madison is, but everyone else, she did worse in South County. She did way worse in the Driftless area, in La Crosse, which is a working class area. She did worse than Barack Obama. She did way worse in Vernon. She did way worse in I don't even know how to pronounce it. I think that's French, so I'm gonna say it's Trempealeau County. She did worse. Buffalo, as well as Pepin County. So she did worse everywhere in Wisconsin than Obama, except for some parts of suburban Milwaukee and the county that Madison is in, which is obviously a losing recipe. Now, Biden, he flipped the state, so he did better than Clinton in most regions. He did better in Green Bay. He did much better, in the wild counties, Waukesha County trended 6% to the left, as well as Ozaukee, which trended 7% to the left. And Milwaukee also trended to the left, as did Dane County, which is home of Madison. But overall, it's pretty conflicted because, I thought that it couldn't get much worse for Clinton. I thought Biden was going to do better than Clinton with working class voters in these areas. These are working class counties that were Obama, Clinton counties, right? But I can actually do. Okay, that's actually better. These are all fairly narrow. Okay, they're all within 10 to 15%. And I thought that they couldn't get much worse because these were Obama counties, and then they flipped for Trump. In 2020. They got worse for Democrats. Biden lost Vernon by 5. He lost Richland by 10. He lost Crawford by 8. He lost Grant by 12. And he also lost Lafayette by 14. These are counties that all voted for Barack Obama. But Biden did worse than Clinton, which I did not think was possible. So I think it's more of a trend here than Biden being a worse candidate than Clinton. And that just makes me think Wisconsin alone is leading Republican in 2024. It's definitely the most vulnerable Biden state in 2020. If you made me pick a state that flips from Biden to whoever the Republicans run in 2024, I'd definitely say Wisconsin, no doubt about it, just because it's so rural, it's so white, it's very non-college educated, and those are just demographics that are not supporting Democrats anymore. So that alone, I think, cost Hillary Clinton Wisconsin. Pennsylvania is similar. Pennsylvania's right. It's a predominantly white state, but Democrats have done well there because they do well in Philadelphia, they do well in Pittsburgh, they do well in working class areas, and they do well in the suburbs. But Clinton would not. I don't think she'd do that well in Pittsburgh. She, actually ran ahead of Biden in Philadelphia, but even then, that was kind of meh. And the suburbs of Philadelphia, in 2016. If we look at Chester, Bucks, and Montgomery, Chester voted for Clinton by about 10%. Montgomery voted for her by about 21%, and Bucks voted for her by about a point. In 2020, if you look at those counties, Chester voted for Joe Biden by 17, as you can see right here. He won Montgomery by 26, and he won Bucks by 4. So he had better than Hillary Clinton everywhere, especially in these suburbs. Chester was 7% more Democratic in 2020 than it was in 2016. Montgomery was 5% more Democratic, and Bucks was 3.8% more Democratic. Biden did much better in all of Eastern Pennsylvania than Clinton. Like, it's that simple. Now, the issue that the Democrats have here in the future is that they can only do so well in the suburbs, and when those numbers start to stop getting more Democratic, they're going to lose the state because they're losing ground with rural and working class voters, no matter who they run. So that makes me think Pennsylvania is probably going to vote for Republican in 2024. It depends on who the Democrats run. Like, if they run Sherrod Brown, he probably wins Pennsylvania, but that's not likely to happen. And if it's a Clinton or Biden, it's probably a Republican state. So Pennsylvania, lean Republican. So now, for our final states, this video's gone longer than I wanted it to go on, so I'm just going to end it right here. I think Clinton wins Minnesota by a tilt margin. She won it very narrowly in 2016. I guess I'll pull up the 2016 election results again. She won Minnesota because she did well in Hennepin and Ramsey County. And if you look at change from 2012, she did a lot worse in the rural areas. The only areas where she did better than Barack Obama were the Twin City areas, like Minneapolis, St. Paul. She did better in Ramsey. She did better in Hennepin. She did better in Washington. She actually did worse in Anoka, which is surprising because she did not actually do that badly in Anoka. It was a county that voted for Mitt Romney by 3.5%, and it voted for Joe Biden by a similar amount. Clinton lost it by 10, so she's kind of the outlier. She just did really poorly in Minnesota. She didn't really think it was in play. Trump thought it was more in play than she did, and I think as a result of that, that's why the state was so narrow. It would probably be a similar margin again. Trump would do very well with working class voters and with rural voters, and I just don't think the suburbs would come out for Clinton the way they did for Biden. But that being said, Minnesota is still a pretty blue state, and I just don't think it would flip. The last two states, Michigan and Georgia, I think are tilt Republican. Michigan was Michigan's trending, or Michigan, I guess, would trend Republican for sure in 2024 no matter what, but it would still be close. Trump only won Michigan by 0.2% in 2016. It was a very fluky win for him. Had Democrats just done slightly better in 3 or 4 counties, they would have won the state. And yeah, Trump got really lucky in 2016. He'll probably get lucky again in 2024. And Michigan would just be super close. It could go either way, but I don't just Clinton would have to really run it up in the suburban areas to cancel out Trump's gains with rural and working class voters, and I just don't think she's able to do that. It's that simple. Georgia's different, though. I think she'd probably lose Georgia by 2, maybe 3. Georgia's close to lean and toss-up, though. And I think Georgia would vote to the right of Michigan again, which I guess is surprising, but kind of not surprising, if that makes sense, given this matchup. But, yeah, Georgia, I would say, votes for Trump because the suburbs, again, the theme here in this whole election is that Clinton's going to do worse in rural areas and worse in working class areas, and to cancel that out to win some of these states, you have to do better in the suburbs, and that's just not it's just not likely. It could happen. She has a path to victory for sure, but it's just not likely to happen. So I would say Trump is favored in Georgia by pretty slim margin, but still favored. So this is my 2024 election prediction as of right now, assuming it's Trump versus Clinton again. So literally no states except for Nevada would flip. If we give Nevada to Clinton, it would be the exact same electoral count it was in 2016, but that's not what's going to happen. I think Trump is a little better in 2024 than 2016 if he runs against Clinton. So thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you all in the next one.